Hey, welcome to another episode of the Hammer Drops. I am your host, Laoch. I'm hoping that your week is finishing off great. Today, we have a reason to be excited. Finally, the House has finally elected a speaker. His name is Mike Johnson from Louisiana, a conservative that honestly will probably put the American people first, finally. And you can tell across the board how the rhinos are not happy about it. Democrats sure as hell aren't happy about it. You can just go to X and you can see all this negativity that they're all spewing about him. How he's an election denier, how he's, close ties with Trump and just all this other crap. Okay. It's funny because they're all on the same page. It's like they're reading the same script. And when they do that this person is probably a good choice to be, leader of the House. So we're going to get into some of the things that that they're accusing him of, some of the things he's done, and just who he is. Because there's not a lot of stuff out there. I mean, you can try Googling him. There's not a lot of stuff. And as good old Senator Schiff said that, instead of trying to Google him, let me just tell you about him. No. Why do I want to know about somebody, especially when they're conservative, and hear it from a Democrat? Not going to happen. So, first and foremost, I'm very, very happy that this finally happened. Because they were showing major weakness, with the party not being one united. The Democrats were all united. They wanted Jeffries, so they can get their agenda pushed. They were okay with Emmer because they can get their agenda pushed. They didn't want Jim Jordan because Jim Jordan, I mean, let's face it, Jim Jordan, yeah. Again, he's kind of like Mike Johnson, just, maybe Mike Johnson 2.0, so to speak. More, So, but there's one key factor to all of this that prevented Jim Jordan, ultimately prevented Emmer, and it's not just Trump. Because Trump endorsed Jim Jordan, and he didn't get through. Trump didn't obviously endorse Emmer, because Emmer is a rhino. He's just a globalist that has one agenda, and that's it. And he wouldn't have been good for the American people. It would have essentially have been like having Nancy Pelosi just as a conservative, supposedly, or in name only. Let's just put it that way. So the major thing from what's coming out now, from what Matt Gaetz is saying during their behind closed door meetings and stuff like that, there was one person that didn't want Emmer, and sure as hell didn't want Johnson, who was second runner up. He was contesting it, and he was also trying to make a play for him to be speaker and to have Jim Jordan as essentially his, next in line, his right-hand man or his secretary. I mean, let's face it. And that person, the snake himself, Kevin McCarthy. We all knew that Kevin McCarthy was a snake. We all knew that he was working with the Democrats continuously, not only to pass these bullshit laws and fundings for Ukraine and all this other crap, but he was actively working against conservatives during the last midterms by taking money and putting it towards candidates that weren't endorsed by Trump. Heaven forbid you have a candidate endorsed by Trump actually winning, which plenty of them did, but still. And then McCarthy's been actively working towards with the state of California and their election process to ensure that Trump can't win. So McCarthy is a big snake. We all knew this. And finally, the snake's head has appeared, and hopefully now people have woken up to him and to the rest of the rhinos that are in office right now. And come next election, when they're up for re-election, they vote for a new person to take their place, somebody that puts America first. So, but we're not talking about all that today, and I do apologize. I went off on a little tangent. We're talking about Speaker Johnson. So, Speaker Johnson, yes, in 2020, he did deny the election like many, many Americans have. He contested it, and rightfully so, because you have, again, now let's go back to 2020. I know people probably don't like to hear about this, but if you go back to 2020, there is absolutely, positively no way in hell Joe Biden got 80 million votes or 84 million votes or whatever, more votes than our first black president, Barack Obama. No way. No way he got more votes than Obama. We all know this, especially when you campaign from a basement. There's just no way. So, yes. And you can see the news now where things are starting to come out now about the election and how things were in different states. They weren't counted properly. There's video of extra ballots being harvested and dumped off after counting had stopped. So all this stuff is coming out. And of course the Democrats and mainstream media are like, oh, no, that's false information, false. Even though the video is right there. Videos are right there. But yet it's hogwash to them. So yeah. So Johnson, he was holding his ground. Nothing more than Hakeem Jeffries did as well back in 2016 when he was an election denier when Trump won, saying that Trump was an illegitimate president. It's kind of like what we're saying about Joe Biden, but yet we get, people that support Trump, we get ridiculed for that. I guess it's because we're Republicans or conservatives, and we know and we feel that the election was stolen. So we have a right to voice our opinions, our First Amendment right, but we get ridiculed, and therefore, if a Democrat says it, I mean, like we saw with Rashid Tlaib and the insurrection at the House, if the Democrats do it, it's okay. It's okay because because they're Democrats. But the minute a Republican says something like that, oh boy, here we go. Heaven forbid. So, yeah, I mean, he does have, there's some concerns over his conservative policies. What's this? Rep. Don Beyer of Virginia, Democrat of Virginia, described Johnson as one of the biggest anti-choice extremists in Congress, saying that Johnson wants to ban all abortions without exception to the point of criminalization with prison sentences. Come on. No, he doesn't. But this is the stuff that they want you to believe. And it's funny. You can just Google his name and all of this stuff will start coming up. It's funny because when you Google it, they're all talking points. Like all the talking points are all the same. It's like literally a script right in front of you. You just got to decipher everything. So, you had others, saying that, he doesn't have experience. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. Obviously, he voted against certifying the 2020 election. So that's another thing that he's a little pissed off about. As a member of the House Judiciary Committee, Johnson was one of Trump's fierce defenders in his impeachment hearings. Of course they're going to be upset about that. What else? He voted against establishing a national commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection. I'm not so sure about that either. Again, and now I just pulled this off Politico, and we all know that Politico is they're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to twist it to make it look more beneficial towards Democrats than Republicans. I mean, that's just the way they are. Okay, so they also say Johnson has been floated as Speaker before. In 2022, Rep. Andy Biggs proposed Johnson as Speaker over Kevin McCarthy. After the House voted to remove McCarthy as Speaker earlier this month, Florida Rep. Matt Gaetz showed his support for Johnson as candidate. And let's keep in mind, if Matt Gaetz didn't do what he did with those other 8 Republicans, yes, they worked with the Democrats to remove McCarthy, but McCarthy had to be removed so we can actually get an America First House Speaker, which is what we need, without a shadow of doubt. Johnson is not for the war in Ukraine. He's not for the funding of the war, which I'm okay with because I'm not for the funding in Ukraine. And we shouldn't have to. So now, is he going to fund the stuff that's going on in Israel? Of course. Of course he is. But that's a different story for another time. We'll get into the whole Israel-Palestine thing at a later time. So, of course, the rhinos as well as the Democrats are not going to like this man because of what he stands for. He's a Christian. He is very conservative, and with his views, and I guess rightfully so, right? I mean, it's like Joe Biden. I mean, hell, Joe Biden during this whole thing with going over in the Middle East, instead of trying to do something, he's on the beach laying in his beach chair. I mean, I guess that's what 80-year-old people should be doing, or however old he is. I mean, honestly, he should probably retire by now. But, that's neither here nor there. Another funny fact is that I guess, according to Politico, Johnson was part of Trump's inner circle and always flew around on the Air Force One. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of positive with him, but then there's also going to be probably a lot of negatives. You're going to see all the negatives online in the news because that's what they want you to see. When in fact, Johnson is one of those representatives that are, and the whole reason why people haven't really heard much about Johnson or who Johnson is because this man he puts his face in the books and goes. He tries to get shit done. Not like the other ones. Emmer, I mean, come on. He gets funded by lobbyists just like McCarthy. Johnson doesn't. Johnson doesn't take the money from the lobbyists. So now, and that's another thing, that now they lose that control. The lobbyists have lost control because they don't have somebody like Johnson. So those are just some talking points on who Johnson is. And I do encourage you to look into more information for yourself to see who this man is. Because, I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and tell you who he is, but, there might be some other stuff that you want to go a little bit deeper with him on. So now here's some good points about having Johnson in. Having Johnson in, and when I say he's about America first, he's going to stop all the funding towards Ukraine, which needs to happen because we already know that a lot of the money that's gone to Ukraine has funneled back to the Democrats in forms of tens of millions of dollars. From Joe Biden, McCain, Hicks, all of them have gotten Nancy Pelosi. They've all got money back. Even some Republicans like McCarthy, some rhinos, stuff like that. So he opposes giving any more money to Ukraine. I'm good with that. He is about securing our borders which we need to. With everything that's going on today, especially with this pro-Hamas crap that's happening here now, and now it's apparent that things are being leaked that they're saying that tens of thousands of pro-Hamas immigrants have crossed over just in the last couple of years, if not more. And maybe that's why Biden wants to do something about the border. Is it because it's election time? So we can count on, hopefully, with Johnson, and I'm hoping that he wasn't saying all this just to get elected as speaker, like McCarthy. McCarthy said he's going to hold Joe Biden responsible for all of his actions. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. Nothing. He did nothing. All McCarthy did was give more money to Joe Biden and created more of inflation. Something that we all can agree on, because we're all going to the stores and we're all seeing how much we're spending, and we know that things are going up considerably. That's what McCarthy did. McCarthy was the snake in the house that prevented Jim Jordan. Ultimately, between Trump and him, prevented Emmer, which I'm okay with, because McCarthy has such ambitions to be House Speaker for the power. He was going to do anything and everything he could to get there. And, well, his true colors came out, and they seen it. And how hopefully the rest of them wake up to who this person actually was and who he is. So, but with Johnson, again, it's going to be good for the United States and for the American people because of his principles and who he is. He's for the American people. For the first time in a long time, we have a House Speaker that's actually for the American people. And maybe, just maybe, Mike Johnson will do something about Biden and the corruption with him, his son, the laptop, all of it. Maybe finally we'll get some justice there. Maybe finally we'll get some justice when it comes to Fauci for the lies he spewed about the big bad C word and the jab, all of it. Now, I know he's going to be there through 2024 because come election time, if we have an election, you got the presidential election, and I think you still have some people in Congress going up for re-election. And hopefully the Republicans maintain control of the House. And hopefully this is just the start of good things to happen. I mean, in his first day or first night of being Speaker of the House, they were getting their stance with Israel. They finally, Marjorie Taylor Greene finally proposed something to basically shut down Rashid Tlaib, in her propaganda, silence her, finally. And hopefully Mike Johnson allows that to happen and they silence her. And maybe they actually press charges against her for the insurrection. I mean, that's only fair, right? Regardless if she's a Democrat or not, she should be charged for her actions and her role in that day. But, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of challenges that he faces. He's got to work with the Democrats, and the Democrats are going to try their best to do whatever they can to stop government. They will. They'll blame it on the Republicans, when in fact it is actually the Democrats that are stopping the government, not the Republicans. And maybe let me just rephrase it. It's not the conservatives that are stopping government. From now on, I'm going to use conservatives as actual Republicans that actually America first. Those are conservatives. Republicans, the old GOP, are the rhinos in my book now. So, yeah. So I'm going to keep that terminology going throughout the rest of my shows that's how I'm going to refer to him. So, but yeah, I mean, he's going to have his work cut out for him, but I do think he's going to do a good job. Again, I got to commend Matt Gaetz for everything that he did to get McCarthy out and actually have the balls to stand up and do it. And to the other 7 that stood with him, bravo. It paid off. For the rest of them that voted to keep McCarthy there, like Bobart and Marjorie Taylor Greene, wanted McCarthy to stay there. I'm still not sure on those 2, especially with, one is supposed to be part of the Freedom Caucus, and yet she didn't have the nerve to actually do what she should have done. Like, right? Lauren Bobart, I mean, you didn't have the guts to do what you had to do. Instead, you stuck with a rhino in McCarthy. Makes no sense. Maybe they're just in it for the money. I know MTG, she's got a new book out. So maybe that's her. I mean, it's just about money for these people. I mean, let's be honest. But we can rest assured that with Johnson, we'll have a legitimate shot now at actually, things happening. Things seem to be happening pretty quickly now, which is good. So, with that, I hope this helps you understand who Mike Johnson is and how good of a decision it was to finally elect somebody that's about the American people first, making the House of Representatives what it should be or should have been this whole time about American citizens first. And now hopefully we get the border situation handled. We get the funding for Ukraine stopped, help out. I mean, I don't really agree with helping out any, with the whole Middle East thing. That's, we need to work on home first and let them handle their own shit. They're adults. They can put on their pants, pull them up, and do their thing. So hopefully with weeks to come, things look good. I hope that they do, in fact, keep that one vote in there, that one thing in there where it says one vote can essentially put somebody up on the chopping block for the House Speaker to vote him out. So I do hope that they keep that provision there to keep Johnson honest. Not saying that he really needs it, but I think they should keep that in there for any House Speaker, because if they don't do their job, then they need to be held accountable and be out of that position, and somebody put in that position that, that deserves it, that's going to do their job. So, well, with that, folks, do me a favor, if you like this episode, share this episode with somebody. It's going to help me break the algorithms that these podcast platforms are doing now. It's going to help me to be able to get out to more listeners. And it's really simple. On your favorite podcast platform, just share it. That's all it takes. Just one little click, and it's going to help this show out so much. If you have time, leave me a review. Give me 5 stars, 4 stars, however you feel the show is. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms, all throughout social media at The Hammer Drops. Until the next time, folks, be good to one another.